welcome to the Jurassic Park 3 Minute, where we're discussing the second Jurassic Park sequel, one minute at a time. I'm Brad.
I'm Dave.
And today we're here to finish out the week with minute 69, Jurassic Park 3. Before we get to that, David, we reported on August edition of Jurassic Minutes about The Legend of Isla Nublar, the Lego short series that was coming out, or about to come out. I didn't know at the time, but it had already started airing here in Australia, and we've just passed, I think, episode 4's just gone up. I won't spoil anything because I think it's just about to hit the US on Nickelodeon, and we will do a bit of a recap on it when we do September's issue of Jurassic Minutes. But there's some neat little Easter eggs in there. Like episode 2, it picks up a little bit after the first episode, and it comes up with a time date, June 11th, 2012, which would be the release dates of the previous Jurassic Park film. And The Lost World was too, wasn't it? Or was it May 25th?
No, yeah, Lost World was May.
Yeah. So it was just interesting that they picked that date to start some of the episodes in, whether it's just a callback to the original Jurassic Park release date or what. But there's sort of some interesting things in there too. It sort of strongly implies that Nedry didn't die in '93. They come across an old Gulfstream RV out in the jungle full of Jurassic Park paraphernalia, cups and videotapes and everything else, and that becomes sort of the search that young Dennis's nephew or cousin, whoever it is, that goes on trying to find some videotape.
Mm-hmm.
One question I was going to ask you, and I can't recall if it was the Jurassic Park TV series that never come to be, the cartoon, or if it was the comic run. Bison, it ends at the end of the series or whatever, we get the revelation that Bison have got their own park open. Does the name Lizardland mean anything to you? Is that what they called it?
I don't know. The name is not familiar to me at all.
Okay.
In fact, the episodes in general still have yet to actually air in the US. I think they're up on YouTube now, but I don't think that I've actually seen them air on Nickelodeon yet.
No, because I was just wondering, like, is the young Nedry nephew, whatever it is sort of, it sounds like he's obsessed about opening his own park and calling it Lizardland, which I just thought that was the name Bison called their park in the original Jurassic Park cartoon or comic, but...
I never read the comic, but I don't think it was ever mentioned in, like, the books or anything.
Yeah.
He had an idea to set up, like, a hunting preserve, but I don't think that they ever actually gave it a name. I think it was just an idea that Dodson had tossed out to, like, one of his colleagues.
Yeah, all right. But there are some little Easter eggs sort of through the first couple of episodes I've watched, and it'll be interesting to see how the series progresses. Apparently, Dr. Grant was in the trailer for it, but he hasn't appeared yet. His hat does. It's Masrani wants most of the stuff they find in that trailer to be put on display in the Innovation Centre, and one of that is a mouldy Grant's hat. So it's it's something interesting.
It was left there right on the middle of the main road, so I mean, it's not like it's impossible for it to. It's not like it burned or anything. I mean, it did eventually, but
well, yeah, I think it would have been well rotten away by then if the animals hadn't got to it.
I mean, the straw hats are incredibly versatile. There's hats from the 1800s that have survived today, kept in like optimal conditions, I suppose you call them.
Yep.
So I mean, moldy, yes, definitely. I could see it being moldy, but I don't think it'd be completely disintegrated. I mean, the actual hat itself is still round, you know? The one that they used to film, it's in somebody's private collection.
Yeah, yep. But we'll, I'll have a look through to rewatch the episodes and do a bit of a write-up on it so we can recap when we do next episode of Jurassic Minutes.
Alright.
I don't remember that on InGen's list.
It's because it wasn't on their list, and that makes you wonder what else they were up to.
Alright, before we get to 69, we hadn't been looking over at Jurassic-Pedia.com. We hadn't been looking at the site when we started the podcast, so I thought it was fitting, since we do get another appearance of Nash here, in part, that we have a look at the Nash entry on Jurassic-Pedia, and a bit of a write-up on the Mercer himself. who helped Paul and Amanda get to Bissell Nubler and try and find Eric. Unfortunately, he was not long to be.
Yeah, this was basically one of your more basic kind of write-ups. Nothing really so spectacular about it. I mean, it's good. It's a good recap, basically, for the character, especially if you're doing any kind of, like, writing or anything on the character. It wouldn't hurt to check it out.
Yeah, it's also great, just a little play-by-play of what his actual role was, how he helped out, what happened, and especially importantly for this minute, that he had Paul's satellite phone in his pocket.
Yeah, he must have had it when he got...
Interesting here, too, that they mentioned that he was carrying a Heckler & Colt SL8 and the Mossberg 500 cruiser weapons, neither of which we see here when we start digging around in these big piles, which I wonder if the weapons would still be capable of being used. I think one of them got bent or broken when it was on his back when he got stood on, but if he had something in a side holster and that, it might have survived. But their only focus coming up is that satellite phone, nothing else.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is that metal actually can. I think the human stomach, the acid in the human stomach can actually melt like a cubic inch of steel in like an hour or so. I read.
Oh wow.
Which, frankly, bone. I know that is common to have been found in Tyrannosaurus. But they found, like, whole bones in this mess here.
Oh, we'll get to it.
Along with, like, plastic sunglasses. And, I mean, yeah, like you said, we'll get to it. I mean, they're just a lot of oddball things that survived in the stomach.
Yep. But head over to Jurassic-Pedia and check out this this article and many more for characters that we've lost early. Cooper, as well, has got one. And I think there's one for the beach. The Beechcraft as well, the plane, isn't there? I'm pretty sure there is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, head over and check all them out.
Well, you'd be surprised what people can do when they have to.
I just want to say, if you ever need help with anything, sometimes you forget to ask. So you can call me. Anything, anytime.
All right, ready to get into 69.
Yep.
As we went on minute 68 of Jurassic Park 3, Paul had cut the boat motor, and we could hear the familiar sound of Kirby Paint and Tile Plus on the satellite phone. They'd found a clearing with some steaming dinosaur crap in it, and everyone had left from the boat to try and find the phone before it stopped ringing. As we open on minute 69, as Eric looks over cautiously, the three adults each find a pile of their own and start digging into it elbow deep. At the 7-second mark, Grant finds a man's watch and throws it aside. Paul finds a human femur, and Amanda finds a pair of sunglasses. At the 14-second mark, Amanda says she's got it and pulls the satellite phone out of the big pile of dung. Grant wipes it off and hits the answer button and holds the phone to his ear. Ew. A recorded timeshare telemarketer message plays over the phone, and the three adults stare at the receiver in shock as the sound of the call echoes through the clearing. At the 29-second mark, we cut back to Eric on the boat as he sees something approaching and yells to the others, "Look out." The camera pans up from the three adults to see a Ceratosaurus slowly lumbering into the clearing. The three adults stay absolutely still crouched behind a big pile of dung. The large animal lowers its head and sniffs a couple of times before recoiling, not wanting to go anywhere near the stench of the area. At the 42-second mark, it growls and turns and slowly lumbers back in the direction that it came. The three adults just stay there, realising now too that they really smell, and the crap's got everywhere. At the 48-second mark, we cut to a CG shot high above the river as rain falls hard and lightning flashes in the background. The storm's definitely here. As we cut to the boat, Paul tells Grant to turn the power off and that they got maybe enough juice for one more call. But whatever they do, don't try and ring the US Embassy in Costa Rica. They won't do a damn thing. And as we end minute 69, Eric yells out, maybe a little bit too loud, "Hey guys, come have a look at this." Everyone apart from Erica's leapt out of the boat at this point, and it gently stops on the riverbank. Luckily, the currents takes it there and not elsewhere. Otherwise, they may have been left behind, which would have been one of those little Spielberg kinks. Not only is Grant and crew trying to find the phone, but now Eric's left on the boat that's slowly drifting further away. Just that Spielberg thing of having one issue go into another, and not really having the best of luck at times. But Paul and Grant sort of hunch over as they move back and forth between the piles, trying to pick up the sound, which one's making the noise. And Paul sort of moves towards one, says it's here, and we get a quick cut back to the boat as Eric looks around for any signs of danger. Which, okay, yes, the Spinosaur is not here as the phone's making this noise, but it could be attracting anything else to this area. And as we'll see a little bit later, it does. But we cut back to Paul as he sort of goes elbow deep into one of the large piles, and
oh yeah,
it's it's sort of funny that not Muldoon, but Malcolm it sort of brings it up with Ellie, how she's tenacious of going in, but herbivore poo dung doesn't really smell as bad as what I would imagine carnivore, especially a big carnivore like this.
Yeah, carnivore. I think I remember that was noted by Sarah Harding in the novel that carnivore spore is a lot heavier scented than herbivore spore, and she notes that the herbivores on Sorna have a particular stink about them that they really normally wouldn't have.
Mm. Yeah, I'll liken it to a couple of years ago. A circus come through town, and we went. You could get a photo next to the line, one of the big lines they had. They'd bring it out and sit it beside you, and you could take a photo, or they'd take a photo and then walk it back out again. And just the smell of like the smell of decay on this line, eating meat and everything else. I can only imagine what the other end would smell like when it went number twos. But and especially since we know it just had a human in there, which you hear a lot of stories about from forensic coroners and all that sort of stuff. The human body doesn't smell real good when it's decomposing.
Mm-hmm.
But we cut over to Grant as he's also arms deep in his own pile of poop, and he pulls something out which appears to be a men's watch.
Yeah, I mean, the men's watch actually would probably, along with the bone, be one of the things that would be most likely to survive the digestion process, because it's metal, you know.
Well, yeah, and that goes into a series here where random items are pulled out. Paul pulls out what looks like a femur from his own pile, and Amanda's sort of found her own pile and is digging through it and finds that pair of sunglasses that he had. Which,
yeah. I mean, you can melt sunglasses with a magnifying glass on a hot day. I mean, I really, really do not see that surviving digestion.
Yeah. So it's been a day. Overnight. So it's been probably a day and a half. I know the human body's sort of digestion is about 8 hours. I don't know what a Spinosaur is. I'm not a paleo veterinarian. Zia might know, but I couldn't imagine it being that long, especially something like a human. It depends what else the Spinosaur's eaten as well, which there must be more since there's a lot of poo here. But the fact that it's stripped the bones of all its meat and left just sort of some of the bigger bones and the metallic bits here as well, and those wireframe glasses. So I'd really expect maybe the skull to be the last thing to survive, just how dense the bone is, which would have been interesting if Amanda pulled out another skull. It'd be the second one she'd seen on Island. They probably wouldn't squeal as much because it's Ben, or not Ben.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it does raise a question just how fast the animal's metabolism is and how long it takes to digest the larger objects. But Grant keeps on searching his own pile, and we sort of get a grunt here of disgust, which is about time because they're not acting here like there's much of a smell coming from these piles. But
let's just be fair here. I would be puking. Yeah. I would be absolutely disgusted.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't be going with both arms. I'd probably just one in, at least keep one arm fresh, because you got no soap, so even cleaning it's going to be in the water. It's going to be fun. But Amanda yells from the left that she has it, and she pulls the phone out of the poop and hands it to Alan. He sort of starts wiping it off a little bit, but he doesn't wipe a hell of a lot off it, and pretty much just swings the antenna up and pushes the button and puts it up against his ear. Which, again, you're bringing that poop covered phone up to your face.
Yeah, that's ew.
And listening it, and he sort of says hello, but he can't hear anything, so then puts his phone to his ear and says hello again, which that's now on the side of his head. And we get something very interesting here. Voiceover, hello, enjoy a timeshare of beautiful... I'll just have to go down to the script because I know it's the... Oh, you two can own a timeshare in beautiful
Guadalajara. Which is in Mexico.
Yeah, we enjoy a meal of one of our 4-star restaurants, explore our coral reefs, or just walk to the beach, which... You said Mexico. Is it on the coast of Mexico?
I believe it is, yes.
Okay. So they might have a coral reef there, but this is 2000 and this is a satellite phone. I don't know why, unless Paul's already tried to look at a timeshare or something, I don't know why you'd be getting spam calls on a satellite phone back then. You'd think, because that'd be costing the company a lot of money to call these numbers, especially back then.
Yeah, I just checked. It is not on the coast. It's like 150 miles from the coast.
Wow. I wonder if they just pulled a Spanish-sounding name and you tried to make it think you're in Costa Rica or something. But well, we had this same issue with San Juan Approach back at the early start of the film, thinking it was somewhere else, and that was just another name they called the San Jose International Airport. So,
and we also had that issue in the first film with San Jose, which is like in the very center of Costa Rica. It's not anywhere near the coast.
Yeah, good point. So I wonder if this was something recorded especially for the film, or if it's just something they've taken.
I'd imagine it's probably something for the film.
Yeah. But it's sort of funny too, as you're getting this marketing call play, you can sort of, we get a shot over at Eric, as he can obviously hear it as well, and affords a smile, and looks up to see something approach and yell out, but we also get the look on Paul, Amanda and Grant's faces of just sheer disbelief and shock that all this time this phone's been ringing and it's just been a marketing call. It hasn't been any help or anything. But as I said, yeah, Eric yells look out and enter the Ceratosaurus. Probably not on InGen's list. Did we confirm it was on their list, or is this something else they've been working on in the background?
I think it was something that this one, the Ceratosaurus, was definitely one of the illegal clone species, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I don't mind the CG model here too, like a completely CG creature.
Mm-hmm.
Got that horn on its nose, and sort of, it's got what I'd imagine the colours of the original Tyrannosaur as described in the novel, sort of that more deeper red and blacks, instead of sort of what we come to see of a lot of animals in the film so far, just the greys and the greens.
Well, interestingly is that the color seems to come from the mini toy, the die-cast figure from the first movie's toy line.
Yep.
And the CGI model, I believe, was a modified Tyrannosaurus. Like they just took the Tyrannosaurus model, shrunk it, and then warped the head.
Mm-hmm. Which makes sense. If they're they'd have to be doing this on a budget, especially with all the other costs that were getting blown out on that with shoots and that. So for what it is here in the film, I don't mind it. It would have been interesting, as we'll get to later. This was supposed to be a Carnotaurus here, not the Ceratosaurus. So that would have been interesting if it had a larger scene involved. If it sort of had that camouflage ability that we got from the novel. We don't know, unfortunately, but
I think that if it had been the Carnotaurus, more fans would have been disapproving of it, just because, I mean, the Carnotaurus is a very big fan favorite dinosaur. from the novel, and I think that fans would have just felt it was completely wasted, you know?
Yeah, good point. And I wonder if then, because it had been in this film, if we'd get it in Fallen Kingdom, which I still love the design of that animal in Fallen Kingdom. It looks beautiful. But it slowly walks forward, and Grant and the others sort of freeze in fear as the big animal stops by the first pile and lowers its head to smell it. And it just pretty much suddenly snaps its head up and stares directly at the camera for a moment before it slowly turns and lumbers away, slower and louder than its approach. So just like the Tyrannosaur, it has a habit of approaching quietly and then being loud as it leaves, but it knows it can smell it. It knows this smell.
Yeah.
It knows trouble. Whether or not it can see, we don't know what the Ceratosaurus's visual acuity was like, if it was similar to T-Rex or if Grant theorised that it's similar, but the fact they're all just standing or kneeling still here behind one of the piles, whether or not it's seen it or whether it just got the smell and gone, I'm not dealing with this. It knows what the Spinosaur is. It's probably come across its path before, and which you'd think if it was more fearful of the Spinosaur, it probably would leave a lot quicker. But I suppose it does just turn and lumber away.
This is more of a comedy moment for me than anything else, just because, I mean, it's like Bugs Bunny almost in a way, because he sniffs the cast, then kind of looks straight at the camera and then walks off. Like, oh man, these guys smell. I ain't dealing with this.
It knows. It's like looking directly at the camera and going, yeah, you know what I can smell too.
Yeah.
But that's when we get the great shot of the three adults still kneeling down by the pile of poop, and Grant just sort of looks dumbfounded. And it's like now all of a sudden with the animal acknowledging how much this smells, they're also registering the smell as well, where before it was the nervousness and the rush of trying to find this phone, maybe the smell hadn't registered, but Amanda seems to be the only one just to get the smell here, and she's got that sort of screwed up face, and we get Paul look down at his hands as Fumba rumbles ahead, and he realises he's got it all over him.
I mean, would they not realize that, though? I mean, realistically, you can see it steaming. You know that it's got you could smell that.
Yeah.
An animal at least could smell that a mile away.
Yeah. Well, that's maybe we're downwind or something. Just the fact that the Ceratosaurus got this close before it smelt it, and didn't sort of give the whole area a wide berth. But we need to come in close for this comedic bit, and I'll just put it down to the fact that they need the phone to get off the island. It's their one shot of getting off the island, and they're sort of more focused on that than the surrounds and possibly the smell as well. But it sort of just all comes to a T here, where all of a sudden, as it sort of walks away in disgust, it leaves them here to ponder the fact that, yeah, we do stink, and this does stink as well, and now we're covered in it. But we cut to, we get another rumble of thunder as we cut to a high-up CG shot of the boat moving down river through what seems like another smaller rocky canyon, and the rain's absolutely hammering down, which is a shame, because downstream you can just make out the shape of the submerged crane that we're going to see in a little bit, and what we can only assume is the ruins of the harbour.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, you get a really, really good shot of it too, and it's, it's so split second that you almost don't see it right away.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, you get to see all of these just things laying there on the side, on the opening of the cliff face, because the cliff kind of just ends, and then you get like this rocky beach lagoonish area.
Yeah. Yeah, as the sort of river sort of widens a lot here. Mm-hmm. I've ran high def images through all sorts of filters and trying to clean it up and just trying to see if there's anything else you can see, but unfortunately you can't. It's sort of these next few minutes where we get the actors on the crane and that you can clearly see there's stuff behind on the banks of this river, and we know there's that one production shot that we can post up a bit later of the InGen salvage barge that's half submerged. We get them all standing by it when Paul makes his appearance back from the river later, but there is stuff here everywhere, and I can only assume it's also being filmed on the side of the canyon set from the aviary earlier, and that pool there. But It's just a shame. This shot here is probably the best shot we get of everything that's laying around, and it's a shame.
Mm. We do get a concept photo of the marina, and this is kind of what gets the idea of the InGen marina, where we actually see through, it must have been a lightning flash or something that they must have decided to light it up with, but we get like 1, 2, 3, 4 boats just half sunken in various positions around the lagoon, and you get a dock next to the crane, and you can see the crane there, but it looks like they didn't build it all. They just had the crane.
Yeah, and it's a shame because all that's in the novel.
Yeah.
When we get to it, all that's described in the novel, so whether it was something that was concept and maybe later cut down for time or issues, or we know later minutes where we get that Spinosaur in the water, and yes, the animatronic design, that capability has come forward a lot more since 97, where we can have the Spinosaur in the water and that, but still, even when they're shooting those scenes, they'd be mindful that this could all go to pear-shaped pretty quickly if we spring a leak or something. So maybe they just decide to pull the whole harbour set sort of back to just what we see on the sides of the riverbank, in case they weren't going to have a lot of time to film with the Spinosaur.
But still, I would have liked to have seen the dock and the boathouse that they have there, because that's something, like you said, from the second novel that we actually see in the novel is the dock and the boathouse. And something I really liked about it was just how describing the wood just quickly rotting so fast among the jungle, and I think Thorne just basically put his weight against the locked door and broke through it.
Yeah, from memory, I think the door's locked or there's chains around the door, and he just pushes on the door and it just all falls from the hinges.
Yeah.
And you know, imagine sort of a wooden structure or a structure that had been built, in this case 8 years ago, and as that sort of wooden timber rots away and as the jungle grows back, that jungle's going to sort of take the shape as it grows up over the shed or the dock or the harbour, and it'd get to the point where the wood would probably collapse into a pile, and you'd still have the jungle growing in the shape of that structure it grew over. But it's a shame. It sort of reminds me a lot of the like the tennis courts and that from the novel as well, where you got the vines growing up and pretty much just making a hedge-like wall of foliage where the chain link fence was or used to be.
Mm-hmm.
But we cut to Grant. He's sort of cleaning the phone off in the rain and turns it off as per Paul's request. He yells over to Grant over the sound of the heavy rain falling. You probably have enough juice for one more call. So the phone's probably been ringing for it's been on for the last day and a half, and cell phones back in the day, they didn't have real long battery life, and this is a satellite phone, so it's probably a good thing it's still got enough charge for one call.
Mm-hmm.
But we cut to Eric sitting near the front of the boat as he looks down into the water, and we can hear Paul yelling still, "Whatever you do, don't call the US Embassy, they won't do a damn thing." And Eric yells back at him, "Hey guys, come have a look at this." And that's when we'll get next minutes where all of a sudden the river's quite easy to see the fish in. But I just thought I'd look, and this only covers Australia, so it's not going to be the Costa Rican or US Embassy down there, but I was just looking at how they assist Australians overseas anyway, and it's sort of interesting looking at what they aim to do, sort of dealing with inquiries prompting the consular. They're limited by some of the circumstances, like they don't have the legal right to consider or to get consular assistance if you're sort of in trouble, if it's anything legal. If you've repeatedly or deliberately acted recklessly or negligently, which if I went to a dinosaur-infested island knowingly, then that might come under that one. But also if you put yourself or others at risk of harm. So I just found it interesting. That's locally. You might be able to find some stuff on your local consular website as well, just what they would and wouldn't do. And Paul's definitely right here. They wouldn't be able to do anything, essentially.
Mm-hmm. He also tried calling the U.S. Embassy and having them having them help out with Mount Adventure to go to the island, and they basically told them no.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, from memory, it was face facts. It's been 8 weeks. It's time to face the inevitable, so... I just thought that was interesting to have a quick look at. Over in script and novel comparisons, we get them finding the poop much in the film, only it's described as being 7 mounds, so there's a lot more in the script than what we get here. There might be some off screen, and as you're saying, there might be some sort of latrine somewhere the animal frequently goes to, but Paul thinks he found it, but thinks he found the phone, but pulls out a beeper, which we don't see a beeper on Nash, and I don't know why he'd have one, unless it's the mercenary beeper to get contacted if there's more jobs on. But Amanda yells, I got it, and Grant snatches the phone from her, pressing the button, puts it to his ear, so Grant's a little bit more forceful there, grabbing the phone from Amanda. We get the same voice of the timeshare person. The Kirby's here to record voice and let out a collective heavy sigh. Grant shuts the phone off, and in all the excitement, none of them knows the fierce horned Carnotaur. They call it Carnotaur. No, right behind them, the giant creature roars, ready to eat them, but as it gets close, it smells them. Even a dinosaur won't eat something that's covered in shit. After the beat, the Carnotaur turns and walks away back into the jungle, and Paul says, I can't help but be a little offended, which again would just continue that comedic beat on a little bit more as well.
Yeah. Now that line I definitely would have kept in, because that is like a perfect kind of comedic line.
Yeah, either that or just Paul sort of looking at the others and just making the sniffing sound. Are we that bad, or is it that bad, or something like that would have been fun just to again keep the scene sort of light. But we cut to a clean phone, and as we see the battery symbol flashing on the screen, Paul tells Grant not to call the embassy. So in the film we don't see it because the rain's falling on the screen, but in the script it sort of says we can see that the battery symbol's flashing, knowing that it's nearly out of juice. And we get a little bit extra dialogue from Grant